Greetings. I'm Bishop Heather Shea here at the United Palace of Spiritual Arts. And with me today is my dear friend and wonderful teacher and spiritual director, Dr. Sister Jenna. Thank you for joining us again. It's always a pleasure and an honor to have you here. And this is so exciting. We're launching your newest book on meditation, and it just launched yesterday. And as part of this program, we're going to be sharing the launch from last night. That was extraordinary. And as we were talking about getting together today, I thought, let's use that because it's so beautiful. And in doing that, let's just talk a little bit about you and how you are, and tell us a little bit about the book and the launch.
Thank you, Heather. I always love being with my family at United Palace. I always feel so at home when I reconnect with all of you. Did you notice that every time I drive into New York, I come by to see you?
Yes.
Because it feels like home. I don't even go to see my own meditation centers when I come to New York and see you. Shh, don't tell them. Anyway, so long story short, the publishers from Sacred Stories Publishing approached me to do a book on my experiences with the divine, or all of my mystical experiences. And I flat out said no at the beginning. But I'm glad she circled back months later. And she kept saying, I really believe you are the one that should do a book like this. So when she said I could invite many co-authors, of course, I had to think of you and many of my other friends that I invited in the book. And that's how I ended up being here doing this book on mysticism and giving permission to modern day mystics to not be afraid to talk about their call and how the call changed their lives forever. It's been a wonderful, wonderful time. And the launch, which was held, I don't know when you're going to record or film this, but it was held on February 2022, which is a very mystical day. And there are 222 pages. And I could go on. So there's something in the air, and I'm just enjoying the ride.
Thank you. And 2 is my number. So this all together makes perfect sense. And I was very honored when you asked me if I would contribute to it. And like you, I was originally me in that book, and which story and how is it different? And a question that I have for you is that it's called meditation. And you've talked about the connection to mysticism and also why that's so important today in this environment. Could you say more about that?
It's going to save your life. And I even mention it in the book. I mean, there has to come a point in time when we all start to value the world behind our eyes. I know the world outside of our 5 senses is important, but I think we must recognize, well, how are we fueling the world outside of my eyes? It's with the interior world of thoughts that I'm living through. So what if the world starts to inherit this wonderful eclectic group of, modern day mystics, where we start to bring the best of ourselves forward? Then the world would be a better place, versus those of us that are walking around with fear or insecurity or judgment or criticism. Just look at can I tell you how I feel so disappointed with the possibility of what's happening in Ukraine and Russia, and maybe all the other countries around the world that are going through things, that I look at it, Heather, and everyone out there, it's so archaic. And then I'll look at myself and I even question if I get upset or irritable or ignorant, how archaic am I being in my consciousness? What I like about the book, it basically invites you to stop being archaic and go back to that moment when you were called. I love your message in the book about your experience at the palace.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to share that in a minute. I do want to start, though, if you don't mind, with yours and at the laundromat. And because what I'm hearing you say, and what I believe is important about the book and your message, is that we are all capable of this. It is something inside everyone. Yeah. It isn't a unique, after years and years of meditation. It can be, but it's something accessible to us. And tell us your laundromat, and then I'll tell you about the palace.
It's so interesting, isn't it, that after getting over 30-something authors in this book to talk about their mystical experience, it brought light to how many souls out there in the world are actually having very, very deep spiritual mystical experiences, but they don't have the courage to talk about it to anyone because they think it's woo woo, or they think they're alone in their experience. So we've actually began a tribe here, and I'm very happy to see the movement that's coming to to life as a result of the book. And my first experience was a little girl. I was at the laundromat. We were in New York with my mother, and I remembered mom putting the clothes in the washer, and I just started to feel that something inside of me here, my eyes were opened. I knew where I was, but something in here went somewhere else. And where I went was to this space where I saw these people in a circular room, sort of positioned in white. And what it felt like were people who knew me from before. And they were just going, where is she? Is she okay? Is she with good people? Is she safe? And that's how I felt at that age. And even though I didn't understand what it was, I remember turning to my mom and say, Mom, I feel like I'm not here. And of course, she looked at me and she doesn't know what I'm talking about. But I could feel I was no longer there.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, when I grow up, and I was growing up, I'm beginning to realize that was my angels protecting me. They were my ancestor souls. They were just beings who just knew me, and they just wanted to make sure that I was okay. And I think many of us feel that we have an angel protecting us. Like there's somebody, some energy that has got our back, and I think we just need to turn our attention to them more and more. It was a beautiful experience. It's funny how I still remember that after all these years.
Yeah,
50 years later, I still remember that. That's how powerful that experience was.
Thank you. I invite your readers to read the book, because many of the stories that are in there are of that. And Jean Houston, who I know we have spoke with, was talking about her experience with her puppy. And I'll share mine now with the palace. And then I want to talk a little bit about who else is in the book. So mine was similar. I have, as the term goes, walked between worlds since I was very young, and always had multiple realms that I knew of. And as a child, I had this vision that I was going to be a reverend doctor. At that point, Martin Luther King was very inspiring to me, very much a part of my life, and the idea of being a reverend doctor. And I was also going to be on Broadway. And my mother was very kind to me, and she said, sweetheart, you're a girl, and at that point, probably not going to be a reverend, or probably going to be a doctor. And having heard me sing, she said, and oh, by the way, not really a Broadway singer. And so I kind of grew up with this, no, mommy, because I kept seeing it, and I kept feeling it, and I kept knowing it. And today I run the largest theater on Broadway, and I am a reverend and bishop, actually. And as of next week, I will be a doctor. So Reverend Dr. Heather Shea, and on Broadway. So we do get these feelings that sometimes we think, oh, what is that feeling? I'm never going to be on Broadway. I'm never going to be, or people will say this, you have that feeling around you. And part of what I loved about many things I loved about your book, it's okay for people who get these feelings to know that they are protected, know that they're loved, know that these are real messages coming in, and to follow your heart, follow your soul, follow your dream. We are all able to access that which is within us and around us, and to be open to it, because the messages are there, and they're sometimes, what is this? Or we don't know how to interpret them, and just trust them, and also listen to them and listen for them.
Yeah. One of the common themes from the launch was how everyone experienced God or their avatar in the form of light, one.
Mm-hmm.
And the common theme that everybody experienced from their mystical experience was they were bigger than the life they were living presently. They could see that they were much more than what they've been living. And there was a beautiful story, which was very emotional at the end, with Temple Hayes. And she was reminding us at the age of 13, her grandmother had told her, you're going to go to hell because you're gay. And she just could not understand why that would happen, because then when she would go and talk to God, God never said that to her. So going back and forth with, who do I believe?
Mm-hmm.
Do I believe my grandmother, who I love, that says I'm going to go to hell because I'm different? Or do I believe in what God's telling me, that I don't care about that? Here's what you're going to do in the world. So what I love about the book, it just really highlights how we might go through our challenges, where individuals who are living only from their five senses will only tell you what they know from their five senses. But your mystical experiences will transcend that and go, I get that, but I'm telling you, there's more to my story.
Yeah. And there's the support there. And there's the support and the love. One of your favorite words, and knowing the love there. And the path and the light. And I've always been following the light and seeing this light. And I think we all do. There's times that all of a sudden you feel this light coming on. It's like, oh,
yeah.
And listen to the light. Tell me a little bit more about some of your other authors, because you have an extraordinary list.
Yeah, there's one that I love with Dr. Kanu Kogod, where she had given her life to her guru, and she lost everything. And the Kogods here in Washington, D.C. are huge. You've got the Kogod School of Business. You've got Sidwell School, for where all the presidents send their doctors, which are ran by the Kogod. You've got Kogod Theatre of Arts. Anyway, long story short, she finds her guru. She kind of realizes, I'm not happy in my marriage. I'm not happy with anything. Everything comes to an end. Marriage, everything. She's struggling for money. Then she goes to the guru, and she's so angry with the guru. I've done everything you've told me to do, and my life is a mess. You make sure you tell me that you are who you say you are. And then through just looking at his feet, she was transported into another realm of consciousness. And what was her mystical experience through that moment was, the universe is within you. Tap into that, so that you can bring that universe outside of you and not live a limited perspective. So what the book will do through every story is to make you now start to pay attention and serve the energy behind your eyes, so that you can open up more to what life has to offer you, and stop wasting time in the algae: anger, lust, greed, attachment, and ego. It's so archaic, that behavior. So that's one of many of the stories that have stood out. There's a wonderful guy, Max Tucci. He comes from a very well-known family of restaurateurs, and his father passed away on the day of his birthday when he was 8. Just imagine, every time you bump into your birthday, you remember the day your father died. And to carry that story with you throughout your whole journey. Just imagine the anger, the frustration, the anger towards God. So in the story, he was searching, and he bumped into a woman who really made an indelible impression in his heart and in his soul. And then he started to chant Om, which was his initials. And he was able to heal from being angry with his father for leaving him at 8. And so his mystical experience was through realizing that the Om took him into another place in himself, where he realized, I'm being birthed here. And my father's death was actually my way to live. It was my life. So the stories just continue. They're just endless. And I can't tell you which one's my favorite. They're all amazing.
And that's a lovely story. And it's in the promotion and the program that you have that's coming up, that we're going to connect to, because it's so wonderful. And the idea of, he's referring to almost the Lion King of He lives in you. And as we see that we are not alone, and that we have our ancestors, and we have this divine connection. And especially in this time that's so difficult for so many people to really recognize and listen to the possibilities. So once again, thank you for this magnificent book. We recommend it. What I love about it, I love the stories, and there's also your guidance to help people, that meditation isn't magic, it isn't difficult. You give people tools, techniques, really wonderful ways, so everyone can have access. So.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this chance to share this with you on your platform. I know how deep and beautiful your heart is and your contribution. I remember I kept nagging at you, Heather, could you just write something? I really want you to be in this book. I remembered. And I must have circled back to you about 4 times. And you're like, oh, yeah, when is the deadline? And I was just happy that your energy is in that because of just the person that you are and the way your soul shines, that you belong in this narrative to help souls to believe in the deeper side of themselves. So thank you for showcasing my book launch, and thank you for bringing me into the palace, my extended family in the globe, and thanks to your beautiful, beautiful audience. That may you all really tap into the world behind your eyes, and please get out of archaic thinking. It's getting so old and it's so exhausting. So, whether you're on the streets, you're driving, you're walking, you feel irritable, upset, you want to yell at someone, you want to curse, just remember it's archaic, it's no longer valuable. Let's contribute to a world where we can sustain it and build and grow and leave something behind. Look, there's a lot at stake here: peace of mind, good health, safety, love, abundance, fortune. Do you want to lose all of that and end up just struggling every day of your life? I don't think so. So let's tap into the part of you that has the real power and the real genuine gem of who you are. And let's make this world a palace.
That sounds beautiful. Well, from all of us here in the palace, we thank you. We are so honored to have your time and your work and your gifts. And we're so delighted that you are a dear friend. And we welcome you back to New York and back to the United Palace. Much love from us all. Thank you.
Thank you.